Hello fish fools, Jeff here. So this is my 10-gallon guppy endler hybrid tank. I've had this tank for over 4 years, maybe about 4.5 years. And along the way, it has evolved some cool looking guppy endler hybrids. And this is a tank that I've had for maybe 2 years worth. I had issues with green hair algae. There was a time when this whole tank was filled with Java moss, but it had a lot of green hair algae on it. And that's when I got a mono shrimp. There's one you can see back there, for the purpose of getting rid of the hair algae, because they're supposedly the best at doing that, but they actually are terrible. And then there's some neocaridina shrimp in here too. But it wasn't until I added a Siamese algae eater that finally took care of the green hair algae. Where is that? There it is. So Siamese algae eaters, they're the best at any blackbeard algae, green hair algae, and staghorn algae. But except for very early on, and just recently, I noticed this, diatom algae. This tank has not had diatom algae in a long time, not since it first developed when this tank was pretty new. And that had gone away because I got what was the best at cleaning diatom algae, and that would be Nerite snails. So this tank has been without diatom algae since I added Nerite snail, but then just recently I just noticed this diatom algae, and then it occurred to me I haven't seen my Nerite snail in a while. So I kind of looked all over the tank, couldn't find it. And then I looked behind the tank and I found this. My Nerite snail, dried up, dead, unfortunately. But I had this for I don't know how many years. I don't know if this is the same one that I had. I probably had this for about 4 years. I did have another one. This isn't the first that escaped the aquarium. I had the first one that I had in this tank, I found outside of the tank, dead and dried up. But at that time I couldn't find it and I just didn't know. I thought maybe it had burrowed in the substrate because I couldn't find it anywhere, and then it must have been weeks later that I finally found it outside the tank. But this one just happened recently. This tank does have a lid, but there is space. So I did recently add this hang-on back filter, but there would have been enough space to get out even then. Even with the lid, it would have just enough space to gap in the lid. Yeah, that is unfortunate. So I now have no more Nerite snails. This one must have been, like I said, 4 years old, and they live a long time, but I would have preferred it just died inside the tank of natural causes, but yeah. Both Nerite snails, they are, the shell is cool looking. They are a cool looking snail. They don't reproduce in fresh water, and all these on the white spots on the Malaysian driftwood here, those are Nerite snail eggs. They won't reproduce in fresh water, only salt water, I guess. And then you can see there's some like right there on the heater. Though there is a heater, I don't use it. Hasn't been on, or at least since I moved, almost close to a year ago. I just keep it room temperature, which is 72. But yeah, Nerite snails are the best at cleaning hair algae. I mean, diatom algae, the kind of algae that'll grow on the glass. The downside is they'll leave these white spots, and they won't reproduce like others. But you know, one of the good things too is that they live a long time compared to, say, mystery snails. I've had mystery snails, and they have a very short lifespan. I don't think I've had any of them live not even close to a year. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, probably the best would be to have a tight fitting lid for Nerite snails, but I'm glad that it lasted as long as it did without escaping. But now I think I'm going to get some more. So next time I go to my local fish store, if they have Nerite snails, I think I'm gonna get a new one to put in here, and maybe one of my other tanks. I'm looking at these guppy endler hybrids. Looking pretty awesome. And there's some platies in here. Red-tail Dalmatian platies. And there's pygmy corridors in here too. So they have spawned, and it was the one time I tried to collect their eggs, and I was able to hatch some of them out. And only one of them survived it for about a month or so. Then the time came that I added it to another tank, and then it disappeared, unfortunately. But I'd like to attempt to breed pygmy corridors again, and I think I'm going to, like that one right there with the dots. I think I'm going to, and that's cool looking too right there. Take some of these. I might try to do some selective breeding and use some of these males that are like one of those two that I pointed out, and put it with a virgin female in another tank. But yeah, that'll be coming at some point. But alright, well, that's it for now. And remember, I'm Jeff, and I enjoy fishies. Thanks for watching.